Hello, good evening. Buenas noches, mi gente. How are y'all doing? Uh, I wondered if tonight's topic was going to be of interest to anyone, and there are comments in the chat from earlier today, so I'm guessing the answer is yes. Uh, we'll give folks a moment or two to get here before we get into things, since I'm going live at a slightly different time than we normally do. But I am very appreciative to everybody who who are joining me live tonight. I'm also appreciative of the folks who are watching from the future. If you are new here, let me introduce myself. My name is Adelia Aborashade. I am a financial educator and coach, and it is my job to help you do the best you can with the money you got. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Um, I will add that in addition to being a financial educator, I live in Mexico City, Mexico. I left the United States 9-ish years ago and have lived in 4 different countries over those 9 years. So that's me in a nutshell. Okay, so this is a topic that's been on my mind for a while. And low key, the person who, uh,
Montgomery almost went bankrupt because of an 18-month boycott.
hold on, let's rewind this a sec. Um, this topic, like using our ability to spend our money to like make a point, get us heard. That's been on my mind for some months, but I could never get around to figuring out how I want to talk about it. And it started with this clip of Dulce Sloan at an awards uh, program. Now, on the red carpet, I think she was. Now, in my mind, the volume on the thing is up, so hopefully y'all can hear it.
It was started as a business. It's not about your freedom, it's a business. So we're sitting up begging these white men to give us rights. No, affect their money. That's why white men change stuff. Segregation ended because of the Montgomery boycott, because the city of Montgomery almost went bankrupt because of an 18-month boycott. These white men all of a sudden didn't change their minds. Abraham Lincoln did not free enslaved people because he felt like he needed to do this. He did it to cripple the South economically. Anytime they've done anything, it wasn't to help us because we were humans. It was to mess up another white man's money. So we don't get rights until we mess up a white man's money. That's it. And until they see us as human beings, we have to mess their money up. That's it.
So, like Dulce said, we gotta mess with the white man's money. Uh, like I said, this has been a topic on my mind for a long time, but given the situation of where we find ourselves in October of 2025, I felt like I want to talk to y'all about it, and I'm hoping this can kind of be sort of a collective effort in coming up with some solutions. But like the thumbnail of this video says, I think we need to cancel the holidays. Low key, and I know all of us don't partake in the same holidays, but this end part of the year is where I forget the number of how many different religions, how many different groups have holidays that stretch it. So really kind of starting this weekend all the way through the beginning of January, somebody's going to be celebrating something. And I think we need to rethink what that looks like. Um, I mean, if we honestly, where we are now, and particularly because I know there are some people who are subscribed to my channel who are not from the US, do not have family in the US. But what is it they used to say? When the United States catches a cold, the rest of the world catches a flu. Like the way the world is interconnected and globalized, what happens in the US is going to have an impact on other people. So I get it if you're like, I'm not from the US, my people ain't in the US, I'm not worried about this conversation. I completely get that. There are a ton of other videos on this channel that you might enjoy more than tonight's video. And I've not lived in the United States in 9 years, but I live in the US's neighbor to the south. So as much as I wish uh, the nonsense happening there would not impact me, it absolutely will. But I was thinking about something that became very clear to me because I know there are some folks that look at the current situation in the United States and they want to blame it on one person. They want to say that this is an issue about the person who was elected president. And really, I think it's much bigger than that. If you go back about 8 years, the first time that person was elected president of the United States, the thing I took away from those 4 years was that we'd been lied to, we'd been misled. And I'm somebody who has a degree in history and I was a social studies teacher. So I'm as guilty as everybody else of teaching that idea that like, the way the government is structured in the United States, one branch can't have all the power, checks and balances, all of that good stuff. But the lesson I learned from this person's first administration was that the checks and balances only worked because the people involved decided to let them work. 8 years ago, somebody was elected president in the United States who was like, I'm just going to try and do whatever the hell I want. And it became very obvious to me then that, oh no, the system only works as long as everybody works the way we want it to, as long as everybody follows the same rules. You get one person in there who decides rules be damned and it all comes down. And that's the reality we are living in right now in this moment. Um, you know, and for us, our community of Black folks, particularly Black women, um, this is not a good time for us. I know a lot of the headlines, and I hesitate to even use that word because I don't know that the headlines are actually reporting what's going on, but a lot of the content that I see is very focused on a lot of the anti-immigrant stuff that the current administration is doing. But you cannot be a Black person in America and believe that we're not on that list, that they're not going to come for us. I mean, they are coming for us. But then you add to that, 300 some thousand Black women lost their jobs, coincidentally at the same time that nearly the exact same number of white men got jobs. Hmm. We see the administration removing well qualified Black folks from posts for really it in all appearances, there's no other issue other than those people are not white for the jobs because they are often being replaced with white people who are ill qualified, like woefully underqualified. So we need to understand something. And when I say we, I'm talking about Black folks, and I'm talking specifically to Black women, that we are on the list. They are coming for us. They are trying their best because they're what is it? theme of their movement is to make America great again. And you best believe our position in the country when they believed it to be great wasn't good for us. Um, Excuse me, I do have water tonight. But we've seen the probably the destruction of the Voting Rights Act. They're going to go crazy with the gerrymandering. Gerrymandering. They are trying to like put us in the place that they believe we belong. And if you would have talked to the Adelia of 10 years ago, I might have told you, contact your representative, reach out to your senator. Well, what we've learned in the last 11 months is uh they're not going to save us. They are either not doing anything at all or they are complicit with this administration. But who they are not looking out for is us. And so we're going to have to do that ourselves, um, because this system, this we already knew this system was not designed for us. Um, and they are making it more and more inhospitable. Now, next Tuesday is an election. I am not going to tell you that your vote doesn't matter. That what I will encourage you to do as you are voting in this election is to pay attention to the ballot items locally, at your city level, at your county level, at your state. There's a whole bunch of states that are amending their constitution because a lot of the problems we have at the federal level, it's because we did not. I'm not going to blame us for this, but um, if we have stronger representation at the more local level, I think it is harder for them to pull this bullshit at the federal level. So, if you were on the fence about whether or not you should go vote on Tuesday, please do. This is, y'all know, I typically fly back to Texas to vote, because Texas is one of those states that does not make it easy for people to vote from outside of the country. And I'm not going because I'm on the internet making this video. I have looked at the list of things that they've decided to criminalize, speaking out against the state, speaking out against the United States. There's a whole list of things. I am so many things on that list. And so for my own safety, I will not be in the United States if I can help it at all. So unfortunately, I am going to be sitting this one out. Um, so yeah, but if you were on the fence, I say go for it on Tuesday, because there's some local things that could, like that's where we've got more power. At least it's looking like that right now. Um, Now, what does all of this have to do with whether or not we should cancel the holidays? Well, if you think about it, something that has been very clearly spelled out is that the United States is run by the oligarchs. I saw a post on Instagram today and was like, there's about 7 companies in the US that are all just, pushing the same $1 trillion around between them. We've had so much consolidation. We've seen blatant moves by some of the largest companies in the United States to buy off the administration, pay to play, however you want to call it. And so to me, it seems obvious that how we fight, one of the ways in which we fight back is by keeping from the oligarchs the thing they want the most. There's two things they want. They want our money and they want our labor. They need our labor to make the products, to do the thing, and they need our money. The US economy is based on consumer consumption. It has been for a long time. I feel like a lot of that is partially intentional, but and if you're like me, it is really odd to look at because the policies that are coming out of this administration are very anti-person. You know, they are pulling back the environmental laws, any kinds of protections we've had, health, safety. So they don't want us healthy, they don't want us safe, they don't want us protected, but they're also doing things that are keeping prices high and driving them higher. And something has to give there. You can't keep us poor and, you know, need our money. But I think that we can speak with how we spend our money, or we can at least not give them what they want, like send them the middle finger. And we are, like I said before, we're coming up on a time of year where there's lots of celebrations, there's lots of holidays, there's gift giving, and all of that. And I say, we don't do it this year. And I am not the only person saying that. Um, who was it? Somebody else just mentioned it. Is it you? Oh, yeah, the blackout boycott online, November 25th to December 2nd. Um, I would say no Black Friday, no Cyber Monday. Maybe do small business Saturday, like for a local business, but no Black Friday, no Cyber Week, no Cyber Monday. Um, Christmas gifts, I say don't do Thanksgiving the way you have always done it. I'm like, here's an opportunity because as Dulce told us, the United States is set up as a business. You want to make change, you got to mess with white men's money. And this part of the year, y'all know where why they call Black Friday Black Friday. It's because that is the day at which most businesses would end up in the black because of the sales they made then. So as far as profits go for a lot of folks, this last part of the year is going to be important. Um, yeah, say a lot of people are saying cancel Christmas. I agree with them. I think that's what we should do. Okay. And I'm hoping that y'all can help with some ways that we can like refocus and rethink about this. And on top of like all the bullshit that's going on, we haven't even talked about the fact that the government, the federal government, is currently shut down because uh, the Republicans don't want to extend the tax credits so people can actually afford their health care. I don't know if y'all have been following that story, but people are seeing premiums go up in the like multiple hundreds percent. Like your premium was previously $250 a month. Now it is going up to $1,000 a month. Like there's that. We're coming up on November 1st, where the US government looks like it is not going to pay SNAP benefits. Um, you know, 48% of people on SNAP work full time. Uh, there's a big chunk of the US population, elderly population that depend on food benefits. There are a lot of kids in the United States who depend on food benefits. So, like, I don't know. You do have to kind of laugh so you don't cry, but I do have to wonder, like, this is bad. I did see a thing this morning that said that we're about to enter a phase where there is the level of hunger we haven't seen in the United States since the Great Depression. And to think that this is happening on purpose, they are doing this intentionally. Like, that's wild. So if there's a way for me to give them the middle finger, I'm all for it. And that's why I think we need to cancel Christmas. I think we need to cancel Black Friday. I think we need to rethink how we celebrate, those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving this year, how you do that. Um, if we are honest, Black Friday ain't been given Black Friday in quite a while. A lot of what the deals aren't great deals. Um, a lot of I guess you got to ask yourself, the stuff that you actually need, is it going to be on sale? I'm highly doubtful it will actually be on sale. And a lot of what is available is poor quality, and overpriced because the oligarchs, the billionaire class are so greedy and just want to keep, what is it they say? You can't get blood from a turnip. They are absolutely trying to do that. Yes. In addition to the folks who won't be getting SNAP, you've got government workers who won't be getting this paycheck. And a lot of them, their previous paycheck wasn't 100%. And they're still expected to show up to work and do the job, but not get paid. Like, who does that? Who does that? So I'm like, okay, let's not even do that. And then here's the other thing. Um, can we actually even afford to do Christmas? Can we afford to do Thanksgiving or New Year's in the way that we've traditionally done it? I think this year gives us an opportunity to examine everything, all of our holiday traditions, and really ask ourselves, why do we do this? Why do we spend money in this way? There have been so many stories, and I think I've done at least two videos on it about how people feel pressed to buy the right gift, to spend a certain amount, so that they come off a certain way. And then credit card bills show up in January and people cannot afford the holidays. And instead of moving in a way that their wallet can actually support, our culture has been one of like, no, I got to give this experience, I got to give this appearance, and I'll figure out how I'm going to pay for it later. That's not the way to show up this year. Absolutely not. Okay. All right. Just going through the comments there. Okay. So, um, so let's talk about like what this could look like. Um, I honestly think how we make it through going forward, we need to look back. I think in the United States now, not right now, but in a portion of the 80s, a lot of the 90s, the beginning of the 2000s, um, we were in a time of like economic high ground where there wasn't a lot of questioning about how we were spending our money. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of considering needs versus want. But like my grandmother was born during the Great Depression, and the way she raised her children absolutely reflected that. You think about folks who were kids during World War II and having to deal with like rations and that kind of stuff. So I think, and then for us Black folks, because so many of the assistance programs and whatnot, we were denied access to anyway. So, how we move forward through this tough economic time, I think we have to look back and see, well, how did people do it before? And I think we start with really understanding needs versus wants. Given the economic, the political uncertainty we are dealing with right now, I think we need to get very clear on what are my needs? What are the things I have to have in order to survive? Food. I need a place to stay. I need transportation so I can get my kids to school, so I can get to my job. What are the things I absolutely need? Prioritize those. I think when we do that, spending ridiculous amounts or spending low key any money um, on the holidays becomes less of a priority because I don't want to sound alarmist. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. Like I did think when I put on this head wrap, I was like, I probably should be putting on a tinfoil cap. But um, like this is really about survival because the government has made it very clear that they don't give a damn about people. They're not going to help us. So we have to really reevaluate our situation and think about what does it take to survive? What do I have to absolutely have? Um, and so tonight so far, I'm seeing uh, affirming. I lost my window. I'm seeing affirming things in the comments. Like most of you seem to be on board with the idea of not doing the holidays, not spending money on Christmas gifts, not going out and buying a whole bunch of holiday decor for Thanksgiving. Like, I would even rethink how I'm celebrating Thanksgiving if that's something you do, um, because I know some families, typically whoever's hosting it at their house, the financial burden of that is all on them. Is it, I think also we have to step back and think about like what are these holidays supposed to be about? I think cutting back on Thanksgiving probably people can work with that a little better, like, maybe doing Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving, whatever you do as a potluck, spreading out the weight of the cost amongst people. But do y'all think people are gonna struggle with not buying Christmas gifts? Looking like I imagine that people will feel like, "Oh, I'm gonna look cheap if I don't have a gift." I don't want my kids to wake up and not have gifts under the tree. What do y'all think? Or am I not giving folks enough credit? Y'all tell me. Free Bloom Room says overspending at the end of the year is just a knee jerk reaction to consumerist propaganda. We can do better for ourselves and our families. We need to spend time with each other. Well said. I saw a video yesterday where somebody was talking about how they went into a store and the Halloween decor was already marked down. Halloween is this week, so that's not a huge shock, but there was Thanksgiving and Christmas decor already marked down. Like, do we do do we need another Santa Claus? Do we need another snowman? Do we need another wreath? It's like they keep producing all of this stuff, trying to entice us into buying it. And we really shouldn't be. We really shouldn't be. Um, Feel like the potluck idea combining Friendsgiving and Thanksgiving. Let me ask, because again, I've been out the US for a while. Is Friendsgiving something distinctly different than Thanksgiving? Is it the idea that like I have this thing I'm doing with my friends and then like Thanksgiving is for family? Okay. A cookie swap. I think making stuff instead of buying things. Because again, I want to starve the billionaires of what they need, and they need me to spend money, and I'm not going to give them that. So if I can, particularly we're talking about things like, like clothes, home decor, things that you don't I don't think you necessarily need more of. Most of us got more than we know what to do. Okay. Folks need to put away pride. They really just need to shop, go to Goodwill, thrift. You know, I've talked about on this channel before that I'm a fairly minimalist person, and I used to be married to somebody who was a spender, a hoarder, and one of the life-changing things for me was no longer shopping for entertainment. Because back in the day, it was not uncommon for me to be like, "Oh, I'm bored. Let me go walk through Target." And then you end up spending money that on things you didn't absolutely need. So shopping as entertainment, there's a big part of that that is embedded in US American culture. So we don't give children enough credit. Be honest and show them your financials. Yes, I agree. And I'd also kind of take it up a notch. We always talk about that that Christmas is not just about gifts, right? We say that, but I think this year is a good time for us to actually mean it. We say that the holiday is about family and love and connecting and peace and all of that. You can have those things without gifts. So I 100% believe that. Some people will celebrate Christmas, and that's fine. You only need a critical mass of people to abstain to make a difference. Look at Target, 100%. And I think there are a lot of us, and I am hoping that maybe somebody who hadn't really given it any thought might see this video and are open to this idea. That's what I'm hoping. I'm trying to scroll and my computer is not uh my computer's being stupid. So hold on, y'all. Okay. Um, so my kid and her girlfriend, they're 19. I told them we aren't doing it this year since we're moving for a few weeks, birthdays, couple of days before. Put the money toward that. That's the other thing. Like we've always said it's not about the gifts. And then a lot of I think about this because of my grandkids' 5 grandparents, I'm probably the only one that doesn't, like, buy a bunch of stuff, a bunch of toys, because their house is small. There's already a gazillion toys over there. And I was just like, "I'm not gonna contribute to that. Either you tell me that there is something they specifically need, or, like, I am going to pay for an experience." Um, but I'm in the minority amongst the other grandparents, because low key, I think they kind of compete with each other, and I'm not doing that. Okay. Lady Sarita says, Friendsgiving is Where I live is for people who don't have relatives. My relatives are in another state. Okay, okay. Right. From back in the day, it's about coming together with chosen family, especially for folks who felt unsafe back home. Okay. And just because an extra Thanksgiving for a lot of people, you know, I have my qualms about the traditional Thanksgiving. And so I've just it's just a Thursday in November for me. Um, okay. Well, and I think when you talk to Black folks about Thanksgiving, most of them are not celebrating Thanksgiving in the same way I think that white Americans are. Like for Black Americans, Thanksgiving is very much like a family oriented holiday, and I think that you can continue to do that and step away from the whole like consumerist thing. Aw. So my family is the worst influence. A couple of us have really tried to change the gift thing, but the majority don't want to do it. There are only two children in the immediate family. It's silly. Well, yeah, because there's a point when we're all adults, and the things that we really want, we buy for ourselves. Um, why is my computer scrolling so weirdly? Okay. So, you know, if and y'all don't seem to be the folks that are worried about like my kids got to have something to open on Christmas. But let's say you know somebody, because I'm hoping you will carry on tonight's conversation with other people in your life. But let's say you know somebody who they're like, I don't know about this. Like I said, I think we all need to rethink all of our traditions and examine why we do things like this. Like, why do we have to buy gifts for grown people who have their own sources of income? Because, some people's family is like, only kids get gifts in the, because you've got the people you live in your house with, the gift giving there, but then there's the larger family. So in some of those situations, people only buy gifts for folks under a certain age. But um, you know, if you are going to give gifts, because my beef is not with the gift giving. My beef is with the consumption. It is them trying to sell things to us that we don't need, that are poor quality, that are ridiculously priced, and always pushing us to consume and spend money that either we don't have or money that could be used elsewhere. So, if y'all always go to somebody's house, is there a way, like we talked about before, you could switch that up? If you never did a potluck before, maybe you do one now. If you have to give gifts, does it have to be 25? Does it have to be 50 gifts? And y'all might be laughing, but there are some folks that it's not if their kids don't come down to a tree that is just like overflowing with gifts. Uh, there are those people. And so one of the things that I did uh, for my kids was I did the 4 gift rule. They got 4 gifts. And I had to fight the person I was married to do that because he told me I was being cheap and blah, blah, blah. No. And if you're not familiar with that, it's uh, Something that the kid wants, something they need, something to read, and something to wear. But I've also seen it that instead of doing something to wear, somewhere to go. And those are the 4 gifts. Um, I think that's if you're somebody who has kids and you've got your head on straight about this, but the grandparents kind of lose it, I think using the 4 gift thing is a way to rein the grandparents in. Um, we can do homemade gifts. Like, I would love it if somebody would make me some cinnamon rolls. They do not make really good American style cinnamon rolls in Mexico, and I don't cook like that. So, it would make my day if somebody would make me cinnamon rolls. Um, I think we might want to kind of chill out about like regifting stuff because you got stuff at the house that somebody gave you. It's nice, but it's not for you. Give it to somebody who it could be for. You know, I think also part of trying to starve the billionaires of our money is relaxing about, oh, everything has to be new. Somebody mentioned it earlier about like thrifting. You need something. Uh does your neighborhood, does your area have a no buy group? Um, are there resale shops? Because consumption has gotten so crazy in the United States that there are people who have clothes in their closet that still have tags on it when they donate it to the Goodwills and the charity shops and all of that. Local Black owned bookstores need some love. I personally think this year, like anybody I might buy a gift for, I think it needs to be a book. I think given our low literacy rates in the US, given people's inability to like, you know, interpret information, I think we need to get back to basics and books for everybody. Absolutely. Told my sister-in-law, shop it in your own house. There's so much stuff in your house you don't use or need. 100%, 100%. Um, what does it say? There's a lot. Trying to scroll through the comments, and my computer is being so stupid. Uh, Say if you think about it, every holiday they push is consumerism. Yeah, and it's not so much the holiday, although there are some that were absolutely, like, about a money grab, like Valentine's Day, but it's how we're expected to observe the holiday, and that's why I say, revisit your traditions and examine, like, "This is the way I've celebrated this holiday. Why do I celebrate it that way? Should I continue to celebrate it that way? Can I change things up? Is there a way that I could do this? Uh, I could commemorate the holiday without getting caught up in the consumerist nature of all of it. Uh, Absolutely. Um, because I think again, like and I say we, but we are told through media like your Christmas isn't right if you don't have, like this color coordinated tree and this kind of tablescape and all of that stuff. It's about stuff that you got to go buy. It's not just the gifts, but it's also the stuff you have to have in order to decorate, to have your house be worthy or what have you. We talked about homemade gifts, edible or not, experiences. Um, Here's my thought, given the shitty situation we find ourselves, government shutdown, people not getting paid, people being furloughed, people not getting their food benefits. I think this holiday season, we focus on service, service to others. Like, we always talk about like that's part of the holidays, but maybe we push that forward in our holiday celebrations this year. Uh, because if you are struggling dealing with or you're unhappy about like the increase in prices, think about how many more people are kind of on the teetering there on the brink where this could be the holiday season that makes or breaks them. I think us, helping other people, uh, donating cash, like, and I would do this with the children. I would say, we're going to take this money and we're going to donate it to this food pantry. We're going to stock, this thing over here. There's an organization that makes sure, because I don't know if y'all have ever done the thing where they have like the Christmas tree and they've adopted like foster kids or a nursing home or what have you. And they on the little ornaments on the tree, they write down what it is they want. So many of those would be things like a coat, socks. I need some shoes. It was so like, I think this year particularly gives us an opportunity to be a blessing to other people. And we can be intentional about if we're going to spend money to help other folks, doing it with small businesses who have been put through the ringer when it comes to tariffs, helping those Black owned independent bookstores. Heard a thing this morning talking about how Amazon, we know that Amazon undersells its competitors, but I don't think I really understood like a typical book might be $14. Amazon will sell it for 10. But if you're an indie bookseller, you've got to sell it for the 14. Or there was some book, what is the show with the red dresses and the hats? Margaret Atwood wrote the book. She just came out with a sequel to it. The words for that show are not coming to mind, but Maiden, I can't. House Handmaiden, is that a show? Yes, Handmaid's Tale. Thank you, Kay. When her book came out, all of the booksellers could not say like, "Oh, we have stock," before it went on sale because they were like, "We will sue you," blah blah blah. You know who did announce that they had the book before everybody else, when everybody else was following the rules and being quiet? Amazon. So if we are going to spend money, this is the year, if we don't ever do it at some other point in our life, that we choose intentionally to shop small, to shop local, and not give the billionaires and the oligarchs more of our money. Absolutely not. Um, One of the things that I mentioned earlier, we were talking about how typically people don't plan their holiday spending. They buy lots of stuff, put it on credit card bill shows up in January, and it's like, it is not uncommon that right now in October 2025, there are probably quite a few people who are still paying off Christmas and Thanksgiving 2024. Okay. Um, I think this year in particular, we want to, however we observe this holiday season, whether you are making gifts, whether you don't do gifts, whether you're doing a potluck meal, what have you, that we don't spend money we don't have. Because I've said this before, but it's like, again, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but we're seeing all of the pieces move into place. Do not take on additional debt uh, because we are in an economic downturn. I know they've not officially called it a recession, but usually by the time somebody calls a recession, we already been in it. Okay. What was it? The previous quarter, they released that like the abysmal growth in jobs. There was shrinkage in the GDP, however it is that they calculate whether or not we're in a recession is two quarters where production or whatever the number is. I can't remember what the number is. They look at shrinks. I think low key, we are in an economic recession. And so I think having cash and not being in debt becomes more important. But also, I said this before, this administration, despite the fact that our entire food system is built on the back of uh, undocumented labor, has chosen to crack down on that. How do you replace the cheap labor of immigrants? You do things that will make people resort to crime, like cut off their SNAP benefits, uh, drive them into unemployment, and then you increase the crime rate. You imprison those people, and in prison, they have the right to your labor, and they don't have to compensate you for it. I have said this before. I hope I am wrong, but I don't think I am. I could very much see them making debt, having debt be a crime, or right now, if you default on your debts, uh, depending on the kind of debt, they may be able to come after you for the money in court. But again, you can get blood from a turnip. But most people don't pay their bills. They take a ding on their credit score. Um, but if you were to make defaulting on a loan, not paying credit card bills or what have you, if you were to make that into a criminal offense, which I know sounds far fetched, but we're also talking about the situation where we've criminalized being without a home. And mind y'all, is something like 40% of people who are unhoused are gainfully employed. Okay. But we've criminalized homeless, being unhoused. They're trying to criminalize certain mental conditions. I don't think it's that big of a jump to criminalizing debt. And once they get you in the prison system, because they've already done away with due process. And we saw what happened in Chicago, where there was that huge raid where they took everybody to jail. Once you're in the system, it's very hard to get out of it. So I do not spend money you do not have. Do not take on new debt for the holidays. That is the worst thing I think you could do. It is D, you're so right. I don't mean to sound like somebody hiding in their house with their tin hat and diagrams all over the back wall, but it's hard to ignore the patterns that I see happening. Yeah, no, I very much think some form of debtors' prisons will come back because a lot of people forget that slavery is still legal in the United States for punishment of a crime. if you increase the things you criminalize, and then you push people into a place economically where they commit crimes, you get a labor force that you can exploit. And that's not even mentioning the for profit prison system and how this administration and those people are like this. So, yeah. So I think we should be canceling the holidays. I think we should be interrogating all of our spending, not just holiday spending, but low key, all of it, and really ask ourselves, is this where my money should be going now? Is if I'm spending money, am I covering my needs, the things that help me live, that are required for me to live? Can I spend either my money or my time being in service to other people? I don't I don't want to end this on like a crazy uh, you know, hope crushing kind of place. So I will say that how we make it through this is with community. That's where our focus should be. So if we tie this back to our conversation of how we are going to celebrate the holidays, um, I think we go back and we think about what is the holiday supposed to be about? What are the principles, the beliefs, the focus of what exemplifies the spirit of these holidays that I celebrate? And what can I do to do that? And that might be donating to the food pantry, volunteering to help somebody, um, cut their yard because maybe they had to cut back on their expenses and they can't afford to have the person come and cut their yard anymore. Um, get to know your neighbors. As bad as this could all end up being, you know, because it's pretty bad already. But if you think about it, if you don't have any kind of connection, you don't know the people who live around you. When they show up at your house or they show up at somebody else's house to pull them out, who's going to be making the calls to find that person? Who's going to be organizing things to say, hey, we got to do this to save such and such? It starts with knowing your neighbors. If economic times get as bad as they could get, we're going to need each other because we've already pointed out that the government is not going to help us. So, if you're thinking about how am I going to celebrate the holidays, maybe a new tradition could be, for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, you post up on your porch or in the cul-de-sac and you serve hot chocolate, or I really have no idea what people drink. Do people do wassail still? Cider, do something where you are doing more than just saying hey to your neighbor when y'all pass each other. Put yourself in a situation where you are interacting with them. And it might be like, oh, I'm going to have hot chocolate. We're going to set up a hot chocolate table and it's free for everybody to come so I can get to know who are these people that live around me. Here in Mexico during the Christmas season, they do posadas where you go from house to house in a neighborhood and different houses provide different like parts of the meal or drinks or that kind of thing. And I think about like the amount of community you need to pull something like that off. I'd like us to to be more intentional about getting in community with our neighbors. I'm not saying you got to be their BFF, but you should know who they are. They should have your number. You should have their number because these are some unprecedented times. And the way you get through this is with your community. Okay. I'm trying to see if there were any questions in here that we didn't answer. I think, oh, my scrolling is so stupid right now. Um, I think, okay, there are two questions in here that are kind of similar, but kind of not. Somebody asked, "Do I think that there is a market crash coming?" Somebody else asked, "Do I think that the United States will lose its credibility?" Um, I'm not a psychic. I cannot see the future. I can tell you, as somebody who's been investing for, I don't know, 15 years, the market goes up and it comes down. Uh, we got to also remember, we earlier this year we had the president of the United States literally like trying to manipulate the stock market. So crash, a stock market crash, it could happen. Eventually, there will be one. Will it be next week? Will it be next year? Will it be 10 years from now? That nobody knows. And anybody who tells you they do know, they're a lie. Because there is no way that they can know that. Will the US lose credibility? I think we're definitely on the road to that. But what does that mean? They can, they can think that the US is not great, but will that change anything fundamentally globally? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Um, but how I honestly, I think this is an opportunity for other countries. As somebody who lives in Mexico, and I think about, NAFTA was renegotiated in this person's previous term, and it's up for renewal again. And the way he's acting, I'm like, look, Mexico and Canada need to just work with each other and skip the US. And I think this is an opportunity for lots of countries to grow stronger connections to each other and decenter the US. Now, geopolitics is a complicated game. Will the leaders of those countries seize those opportunities, or will they try and hold on to the old status quo, given that the person running the United States doesn't seem to know how anything works or understand anything at all? I don't know. All right. I don't think there's a video I do these days that I don't get this question. If the dollar crashes, what happens to expats earning USD? Okay, what are we defining as a crash? Because 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, the whether you wanna say the dollar lost value against the peso or the peso gained value against the dollar. However you want to frame it, things got more expensive for me because I earn my income in dollars. So, if the US dollar loses its value against the currency in the place that you live, things are gonna be more expensive for you. Um, I don't kn it c so that's why I say, how are we defining? Are we talking about a substantial loss in value, or are we talking about a situation in which the dollar is worthless? Because, and again, I am not a financial advisor. I am not licensed. This is just my take on things. If we're talking about a world in which the US dollar has no value and it is the world we're currently in where everything is globalized and very US centric, we got bigger problems to worry about than that. I feel like we would be one step away from seeds as currency, and then it don't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So I think, if you're wondering, is it something that I'm super stressed out about? No, because I can't impact that. All I can do is do the best I can with what I got, in the famous words of Miss Mariah Carey. um, let's see. All right. So, okay, that's that tonight, y'all. Um, Thank you, those of you who are here live, who helped me out. If you are watching this on the replay and you've got some ideas or suggestions, or maybe you think I'm completely off base here in canceling the holidays, I'd love to hear that in the comments. Um, we will be live on Friday at it'll be noon my time, so I think that is 2 p.m. Eastern. I have a live guest on Friday. So I will see y'all then. Bye, guys.